Welcome to Programming with PK. I'm PK and I'll be programming. I'm going to be packing a lot into this particular demonstration, everything from a datum-based database to data visualization. I'll admit I'm struggling with what to call this particular video because of all the things I've crammed in there. So I'm just going to go right down the list here. What we're going to be doing is doing some data visualization of the population of the United States from 2000 to 2015. Why those particular years? Because that's the data I could get. I've actually started to acquire more data, but for this particular demonstration, I'm going to show you what is available for you to try. And we're going to start by showing the end result to kind of give you a taste of what you can do with these particular tools. The tools in question that I'm going to be using are, it's going to be Clojure, is a little programming language, which I'll go into a little bit of detail as to why. DataScript, which is a slightly different take on doing a database. It was very new to me, and I believe the concept has been around a long time, but like I said, new to me. It was interesting. And we're going to be using something called Gorilla REPL, and I'll explain what REPLs are and why we're using a Gorilla. And then what else we're using? Oh, and Vega, which is a visualization language. And in the end, we're going to be showing some pretty cool looking visualizations. At least I think they're pretty cool. Now, visualizations have been around for a long time. Most recently, if you watched the election results for so much as 5 seconds, you saw some data visualizations. And if you're like me, you wondered, where did these folks get this data from? And hopefully, by the time we get through all this, you'll have a pretty good picture where that data comes from, at least from the geography perspective and how things get drawn, such as the map of the United States or the shape of a state or the shape of the counties. And then how does the data get applied to those things? So I'm going to be demonstrating all that with this particular demo, and we're going to start with the end result. So this is a report that I put together to help demonstrate not only the data and the visualizations, but also to demonstrate this particular product, Gorilla. And shout out to Johnny Epsilon out on GitHub for this product. It's really quite neat. And yeah, like I said, we're using Clojure as a programming language, which offers some interesting possibilities in terms of data manipulation and functional manipulation. Say that 3 times really fast. So what we have here is Gorilla REPL, which allows you to be able to actually go in and put in markdown, similar to what you would use on GitHub or any number of documentation tools these days. And from there, you can actually put functions, real functional code in to get functional results. So here, I wrote up a report on the population of the United States in 2001 and the resulting population map on the United States. Now, when I saw this, originally I wasn't real impressed. I mean, yeah, you can see there's population density around Los Angeles, and you can see some population density up around New York. Obviously, there's a little bit of population density down in the Texas area and over in New York. But it doesn't really tell a story, and data visualization needs to tell a story, in my opinion. So what I did was I wrote some functions to operate on this data to take the population of 2010, the population 2011, and run a delta. And from there, you can see a far more interesting picture. Where did the population grow the most? Where did it shrink the most? And you can see, and this again is 2000, I believe it's 2011, yeah. Around the time North Dakota had a little bit of an oil boom. And you can see them sustaining a massive amount of growth there relative to the rest of the United States. And this is just one example of a visualization that you can get through the tools that I've put together. You can also do some slightly more basic visualizations, and I say basic, there's still a lot of power here in being able to build graphs. And this is by no means the limit of this tool. I have just scratched the surface of what this tool can do. I have made some changes to this code, which I'll walk through how you pull that in. And those changes allow you to be able to do other types of visualizations beyond this. But even the visualizations that do exist with these bar charts and line charts, there are some options here I haven't even tapped into. And Johnny has some videos out on his website, which is available here. I recommend going out and watching those videos. He does a fantastic job of demonstrating this product. The rest of this is really just showing off some of the updates that I made to be able to show different states. One of the future updates I would like to make to this is to be able to get beyond the United States and show other geographies like France or Russia or whatever, right? The countries of Africa, even the entire world. It's all very possible. I just need to sort of get outside the box of the United States, but I'm not there yet, getting really close. But this is just showing how you can apply different color schemes to whatever you want. And these are all populations again. And what's neat about these pictures, these charts, they are actually rendered charts, meaning you can take these things and you can stack them up, you can move them around, you can grow them, shrink them, stick them in a box, stick them in a table, do whatever you want. So here I've shown different varieties of the same graph using different data. Actually, that's incorrect. It's the same data, different functions operating over that data. From there, I show an example of how you can actually show swaths of data. And eventually, I want to be able to take this and apply it to forms of visualization outside this tool that are more static visualizations, but be able to take a scroll bar and be able to scroll over this data. So as you're scrolling across, you'll see the data change over time. But this is showing the changes in population over a number of years. This is particularly interesting because when you look at 2006, here we go, I believe this is it. Some interesting thing happened in Louisiana here. You can see there's a 76% drop in population along the coastline, and that was the result of Hurricane Katrina. So some interesting stories can be told from the data here. So let's dive in. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to delete everything, and then I'm going to go through the exercise of getting it checked out so that you can follow along and do the same. Some tools that you're going to need out of the gate before you even get started, things I'm not going to reinstall. One is going to be Emacs. Now, this is Emacs. And I will say you can use the editor of your choice, right? If you don't like Emacs, because I'll admit Emacs took some getting used to. And I should be specific. I'm actually using Spacemacs. Spacemacs is an extension to Emacs that I don't know if it was specifically made for Clojure, but it certainly makes the Clojure experience easier. The other tool that I use as far as editing, let me bring this up, is VS Code, brought to you by Microsoft. And no, I don't want to update you now. And this I will come to when the world of parentheses gets to be too much and I just want things to work. I'll come over here. I'll use this too to show some of the larger files because it's easier to scroll through things here. So I am a man of many tools. I will use the right tool for the job, and I will switch between these two. As far as the languages that you're going to have to acquire, one of them is Clojure. Although I believe you can just get the build system called Linengine, and I've spelled it out here because, yeah. Follow the instructions on these websites for how to install them, but when you're done, you should be able to run lean. Well, let's do a lean version. Is it dash? We'll find out. Yes, there we go. You should be able to run lean version, and if this comes up, I'm 90% certain everything's going to work. I believe I accomplished getting lean running by actually fiddling with my path. If that is a challenge for you, just quit now because everything else is going to be a mess. But if you can do that, the rest of this will be a piece of cake. So first of all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to eat my own dog food here and do what I said. Don't do this to your root directory. Sayonara, everything I worked so hard to do. All right, I'm going to close my editors down since I just ripped the carpet out from underneath them. So let us go to our friend, hello, GitHub. Welcome to GitHub. Now, in order for this demo to work, I had to take Johnny Epsilon's Gorilla and I had to make some changes to it. So Johnny hasn't made a lot of changes in the last few months, and Vega has seen massive amounts of change in the last few months. And in order to do the things that I wanted to do, I had to upgrade his version of Vega. I also added some new features, and I don't think I did it the way he wanted things to be done, but I also added the choropleth, which is the map of the United States with the different colors on it. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be checking out my version. So I forked his version, and we're going to check that out. I believe I've got all the branches set up by default here. So what we ought to be able to do, let me back her up here and take a look at all my repositories out here in Pete Kimbrell. And let's filter this critter down to Gorilla. All right, so the three things you're going to need, is Gorilla Plot and Gorilla REPL. And I'm pointing at my screen as if you can see my finger pointing at the screen. Let's use that mouse of mine. The third is Lean Gorilla, and what this is actually a plugin for LinenGen. LinenGen is the build system for Clojure, so Lean Gorilla offers an extension to LinenGen to be able to use a web-based REPL. What is a REPL? A REPL is an acronym. Stands for the Read, Evaluate, Print Loop. In so many letters, it's a console, but it's an interactive console that allows you to really plug in. To call it a console is not really fair. There are subtle differences to it, hence the name REPL. But when you get into the world of data science, the REPL is really your conduit into your data and your functions to be able to make changes. So Lean Gorilla is the heart of all that. It includes Gorilla REPL, Gorilla Plot, and a bunch of other Gorilla renderable things that I didn't change. But Plot and REPL I changed. Lean Gorilla ties it all together. Let's check these out. So let's just start from the top. Gorilla Plot. Clone. Copy. So I'm going to make a directory here called Gorilla, which is going to be separate from the actual demo itself. All right. Go into that folder, and I'm going to clone Gorilla Plot. The reason I created the subfolder here is to keep all the Gorilla goo off on its own. I would like to think that eventually I'll figure out how to get this all merged into what Johnny's got and get these things built in so that you just include Gorilla and you're done. But because I made changes, we got to download them, we got to compile them. LinenGen is an extension, and I say this with like 70% certainty, so take everything I say here with a grain of salt. I believe it's an extension of some variety of Maven, so when you build things, they end up in your Maven repository, so your .m2 folder. I say this because the way I'm kind of manipulating Gorilla here is I'm downloading these components, I'm building them, like you'll see me do an install, and what that does is it installs it into my local Maven repository. So when I go to use Gorilla REPL, rather than using Johnny's version of Gorilla REPL, it'll use the one that I've already installed. So got Gorilla Plot. Awesome. Got two more to do here. Hey. That was interesting. All right, Gorilla REPL. This is the actual console that Johnny wrote. Get clone zoink. Get that checked out, and while it's thinking, I'm going to go get Lean Gorilla. The Gorilla REPL is going to take a little bit to download because I added all those maps of the United States out there. I say all those maps, plural, because I have one for each state. Probably more efficient ways to do it, but this is about making it work, not about making it efficient. All right, so let's look at here. Now, what I could do is go into each of these and run lean install, but I might make changes to these because I can. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to edit a build file. Use your favorite editor. Yeah, I just admitted this to be my favorite editor. It's not really true. bin sh, it's just functional. cd into Gorilla plot, and then do a lean install, and then go back. Gorilla REPL, we're going to build that. Lean install, and go back. So think of lean like Maven, but lean is for Clojure. All right, cd lean REPL. Lean install. All right, that should do it. Chmod, make that runnable. And let her rip. And this shouldn't take much because I did this earlier tonight. Oh, not lean REPL, lean Gorilla. Yay, my first bug. Gorilla. I thought that was awfully fast. Did I mess up the other one? Created the blah, blah, blah. Warning, blah, blah, blah. Created the blah, blah, blah. Wrote the blah, blah, blah. That was Gorilla plot. Okay, yeah, we're good. All right. Sweet. And there we go. All right, now I'm going to back up to my source folder again. And now what we're going to do is go into Gorilla demo. This is my demo project. We'll check this out, and then I'll give you sort of a rundown of how that thing is built. Git clone Gorilla demo. No, I'm not putting this into the Gorilla folder. The Gorilla folder is for Gorilla itself. This is the actual project. So I called it Gorilla demo. Probably should have called it something like population demo if I had given 5 seconds of thought to it. Okay, now that I've got this, I should be able to pull up VS Code, which I'm going to do since it's easier to peruse code here. Open recent. Oh, good, you remembered. Okay, so the lay of the land for a Clojure project. You have a Clojure file called project. This is similar to a POM file. In fact, this actually behind the scenes turns into a POM file when you do a build. Has a lot of the same attributes of a POM file where you establish dependencies, your licenses, and what plugins you use. So I'm going to explain a few things here. Obviously, we're using Clojure. And we're using Clojure script. And the reason we're using Clojure script is so that I can use data script. And I'm using data script as my database. It's a very interesting database. So if you're used to traditional relational databases, take all of your knowledge, put it in a book, and set it on the shelf and forget about it. This is a datum-based database. I guess you could call it a graph database of sorts, kind of. I don't know. I'm not an expert on databases, but the notion is that rather than having tables of data, you have completely denormalized, is that right? Data, basically everything you would think of as a column becomes its own table, known as an attribute. And attributes are tied together with things called entities. And what you do is you pick the attributes from the entities you want to pull together, and what it amounts to is your queries become the biggest joins you've ever seen. In fact, the entire query language is nothing but joins. The kind of thing that would give you nightmares in SQL is the very basis of this database, but it does it beautifully. And so in and of itself, a database, reading data, population data coming in, I can do manipulation and write it out and do stuff. From an operational perspective, this is all I really need. But in the plugin section, I can add Lean Gorilla, and what it does is it extends LinenGen to be able to do more. So what do I mean by do more? Well, let me go into Gorilla demo here. If I just do Lean REPL, what should happen is it should start my console. There's my console. And in here, I can do Clojure type functions. So I'm going to invoke the function plus, and I'm going to give it 2 parameters, 5 and 5. Run it, and there you go. You get the answer 10. Great. Now I could, if I knew what I was doing, and I don't put a whole lot of onus on that. Quit. Well, obviously you can see I'm struggling here to use the REPL. In theory, I should be able to load these classes in, but I'm interacting with a text-based console, and you can get some mileage out of that, but I need something to help me out. Now, I'm actually going to start with Emacs and show it there because, yeah, I'm struggling to find where Gorilla REPL is. Well, Emacs will do that for me. So let me go ahead and fire up Emacs here. And specifically, it's Spacemacs, which is an extension to Emacs. And, well, hey, I already have my shortcut here, so I'm going to go ahead and... This is just because I loaded it before, so yay, I got that for free. But I'm going to go ahead and load up that same file that we were looking at with VS Code here. And what we're going to do is we're going to start a REPL. So space MSI. I will put my cheat sheet out there. I have a cheat sheet for Emacs, Spacemacs, sorry. And I'll put that out there that has all the, like 90% of the commands that I use. I'm finally starting to get to the point where I can actually navigate this thing and find commands, so I'm not having to use my cheat sheet quite as often, but stuff, whatever. All right, so I've started the REPL behind the scenes. But what's cool is that now I should be able to go through and actually, rather than typing things into this command prompt, I should just be able to hit CC, and there we go. Got a nil because there's nothing to return. And what I'm doing right now is I'm actually interacting with my Clojure engine, and I'm submitting these functions. So I've just defined a function called transact, one called load database, and here I'm going to actually load the database. So right now I'm taking the population of the United States, which were in these EDN files. These use my cursor, not my finger, in these EDN files, and I'll go through and show what those look like. In another video, I will go through how I came up with those files. Is it done? That seems awfully fast. It takes a little while because Emacs is trying to write the results out to the console, the like text console. Okay, so I had to cut that out a little bit because it was taking an awfully long time. Partly because Emacs takes the results of this load and actually spits it to the console out. And there's a lot of stuff there. But you can see I've actually loaded the database. So now I should be able to go to... Gosh, if I were ready for this. I should be able to go into my database and actually do queries. You know what? I'm not going to do that here. I could do that here, but I'm not going to do that here because I've done all this work to do it in Gorilla REPL, and that's the whole point. I'm going to show it there. So I'm going to shut this REPL down. MSQ. Just wanted to show that I could submit the commands. Awesome. But there's a better way. So what I'm going to do now, because I've got LinenGen, and I've got my code, and I've got Gorilla loaded into my Maven repository, I should be able to run lean Gorilla. Now I could just do this and Gorilla would come up on a random port, but I don't like random ports, so I'm going to give it a port 8999. And am I going to give it anything else? Nah, we'll just go with that. So what I'm starting here is a little web server that's going to act as the conduit to my REPL, which is cool. I did spell lean right? Okay. And there we go. Now we're running. So running at this address. Awesome. So what I'm going to do now, open up a new tab here. Copy pasta. Okay, there we go. Comes up with a blank worksheet. Now Gorilla REPL is a worksheet-based environment. And the idea there is you build up a worksheet, you can save it, and then you can share it with other people. You can pull in other people's worksheets. You can come back and re-edit your worksheet. The output of anything that you calculate is saved as comments in your code so that when you come back, they just come right up. That's actually how I showed my population report. I had everything already rendered, so I was able to bring it up without having to re-execute anything. But I have the option to execute things. So what this did was this created a blank worksheet with a random namespace, which is kind of cool. It uses one of those random word generators that uses real words. So if I reload this, lush pond, I reload it again, I get wavering dusk, unwavering dusk. Ooh, I like that. I'm keeping that. And now I can hit Shift Enter, and I've executed the code. In the same way that over here in Emacs, I was submitting these functions, I'm submitting functions here. So I can actually do, parentheses, driving me crazy. Submit my function plus 5 and 5, shift enter, 10, woohoo! But there's more. So let's say I have a data set. Let's define a data set, and let's make it a vector of 3, 7, 5, 1, 9. Just random stuff, all right? It's sort of random. I'm trying to create a distribution that looks interesting, right? Something that kind of goes all over the place. Now, what I'm going to do, oh good, he's already included it. I should be able to run plot, shooting from the hip here, plot view. So this could crash and burn. Feed it data set. Is it just that easy? Nope. Is it a list plot? Maybe it's a list plot. Let's try list plot. Thank you. So here we've graphed the data, we charted the data. A little hard to see. So what we should be able to do is say, I honestly don't remember what the command is. You know what? When in doubt, look it up. Gorilla REPL. Google. Hello, Google. Gorilla REPL. Let's see here. Plotting. Joined. There it is. When in doubt, look at the documentation. My dad is telling me in the back of my head. I believe you just say joined. Is that true? No. Joined. True. Aha. There we go. And now we've joined those points with lines. Again, this is just the tip of the iceberg, but okay, I got data. I can graph data. Now let's go really crazy and actually get data that we can graph that makes sense. The other nice thing about Gorilla REPL is, I said it earlier, you can save and you can reload worksheets. So I have a worksheet I've already created. So let's load that critter up here.